Hi, it's Miguel, here to talk about the game that I've been working on. This is Sparky Co. So I wanted to do a little devlog as to how it's been going, what the game is about, and some of the challenges that I've had in getting this to come together. This is my first game, and so not knowing how to code, not knowing how to use any type of game engine, not being able to draw or know what pixel art is, kind of really set me on here. So let's talk about it. What is Sparky about? So Sparky Co. is a 2D action adventure in top-down perspective. A little original Mega Man, a little Metroid, a little Legend of Zelda, Castlevania, kind of in that vein. So in the game here, this is all placeholder art, by the way, but in the game, what you're doing is you're trying to save your beloved hobby shop and its owner, who's your childhood mentor. This is where you learned a lot of, the basic hobby electronic skills, coding, all of that. You learned it in this hobby shop when you were younger. And so now it needs your help. Stomp out the bugs in 6 circuit dungeons, all with differing bugs, breakable items, and environments. You can unlock new abilities. Some of those abilities enemies will be weak to. Some of them they'll be invincible against. And right now I'm aiming pretty much for a release sometime in July. This was originally just a training exercise for me. It was supposed to just be a way for me to learn how to make a game from start to finish. Story, game dev, code, art, audio, wrapped into one. So I could say, hey, I finished the game. You get this idea, and then you think it's not going to take all that much. Oh, it's just a few things I got to get together, and then boom, game release. But there's so much that happens in between, and that's where I got lost too. So it's become a sort of a running project now that really shows the results of all the tutorials that I've been learning, that I've been looking at. And I feel comfortable saying now that I think I have enough tutorials I can understand to actually complete this game. So that's why I'm so excited, and that's why I've decided to do a devlog on it, because there's so many things that I've learned, so many things that I tried to do and just did not work out. And so this helps me learn to make a 2D top-down game, which I can then use as a kind of basic template for different story ideas that can be done in that niche and just kind of grow from there. The game's core loop pretty much stays within being in the hobby shop, repairing items, going to the dungeon to explore them, clear them of enemies, gain new abilities. Enemies will drop health, and smaller puzzles in the dungeon can be solved for tips to solve the main dungeon puzzle. It could be a tip against the boss. And so you pretty much stay within that core game loop. And so when you're in the hobby shop, locals bring you items to repair for cash. This cash is saved to pay the hobby shop debts. So every 5 repairs, the dungeon level select screen pops up for you to choose one. You fight enemies and solve puzzles on your way to the boss seal. Then you go fight the dungeon boss. Once you've defeated all 5 of the first circuit dungeons that you see, a 6th one will appear. That's the final boss. So once you defeat that, you save your mentor and the beloved hobby shop, right? The game was really rough when I first started, and it was really boring. It was kind of hard for me to honestly enjoy working on it, more than anything being educational. Like, oh, okay, at least I'm learning a lot out of this, but this is not going to be fun to play at all. Man, this is going to suck, right? But as I started implementing, because at first it was just repairing items, and then I had to come with some sort of game out of it. And so it was fun to include the dungeons there and make it in a way like you have to go in these circuit dungeons and you have to control a character called Sparky, which is a character that you see in the dungeons there, and you have to control that character and navigate them through the dungeons. Kind of had this idea, kind of like Kevin Flynn in Tron, where he's booting up the Clue program, and you see, the Clue program start up inside the Tron grid. So I had kind of like an idea like that I thought would be cool. And so now that I've been playtesting it, I have found it to be a lot more fun. I enjoy playtesting this game. And so I've had moments where I've been able to add some tension, as you'll see like in the challenge room, to really get the player feeling on their toes, feeling like, they're just being relentlessly pursued. Kind of like if you're trying to, kind of like in Metal Gear games where you would, once you get seen, they're aggressive about coming to your position to go ahead and, take you down, take you out, because you're a threat. And so in these circuit dungeons, these dungeons are plagued by bugs. These bugs are enemies. These bugs are the boss themselves. And so you have to go into these circuits and fix them. It's exactly what Sparky was built for. Sparky is just a diagnostics program. You control Sparky, and you navigate these dungeons, you clear them of everything that's going on, and you go ahead from there, gaining new abilities, learning tips on how to solve future puzzles, and you can solve these dungeons. You can clear these dungeons in any order you like. There's no, you have to do them in this order. No. Now, mind you, of course, there are instances where you'll enter a dungeon and you have the weakest abilities for that dungeon. You're not prepared, so the dungeon will feel harder. So, for example, in the Wasp dungeon, if all you have in terms of shot abilities, most of the abilities, all but one, give Sparky a different shot projectile that they can fire. And so that shot projectile by default is the spark shot, an electrical shot. However, Sparky can also gain the ice shot and the fire shot. If you go into the Wasp dungeon with just your spark shot, you're going to need to go ahead and run around and run away, because the spark shot does not do any damage to any enemies in the Wasp dungeon. You can still, break items with it, sure, have at it, but it will not at all help you for the enemies. And if you try to get the enemies to shoot each other, kind of thing, like kind of try to get one's projectile to shoot the other, it's not going to help you either. So you'll have to run around until you find the room with the miner puzzle, and that will allow you to obtain the fire shot. So the fire shot is a key item that you will use to defeat the boss. And so as you run around and you get tips from the environment, you'll learn that there is a room in this dungeon that has a minor puzzle. That puzzle will give me the ability that I'm going to need to beat these enemies. If you go into that same dungeon with the ice shot, you don't need to solve that, but you don't need to get the fire shot just to kill these enemies. You can kill them just like that, but it's going to be much slower because it doesn't do as much damage as the fire shot, which all enemies in the Wasp dungeon are weak to, including the boss. And so that's kind of how I have the dungeon battle mechanics going, and I'm still kind of messing with it, balancing it out, but that's pretty much what Sparky is. So thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it. This is the first video in the Devlog series. The next one is going to go over the dungeon design. It's a 2-part video. The first part is going to go over the room layouts. I'm going to go over the tile set. A nice change from the fugly one that was there before with the red and blue. I've never been good at mixing colors. Even since I was a kid, if you see my childhood pictures, you'd see that Miguel can't mix colors, I'm not even very good at coloring. But anyways, so room layouts, the tile set, and going over the enemies. So thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. If you have any comments, you can hit me up on Twitter. My DMs are always open at Tertiary Map. Have a good one. Oh, you know what? Quick shout out. Shout out to all of you out there posting those 100 days of game dev all you posting a project that's been kicking your ass, to all of you out there, I'm thinking of you. All right. So have a good one. Thank you for listening. Bye.